thank you so much for you all sending over stuff that you've been working on. I absolutely love it. Kat, I was able to email everybody just a real quick, like what was just firing off in my brain as I was looking at all of the ideas. So let's go ahead and start there.
Great. Do you want me to, the things my brain's playing with. I have started pulling a couple more realistic images for the actual locations of each of the 4 more realistic worlds. For Danny, since she's in that, you know, googly kind of office, that very modern type office, a lot of them emphasize these very geometric structures, which ironically, if you look at a double helix, it is very geometric. And so I'd love to do some form of gesture that is double helix-y, not too much like, hey, look, DNA, but that suggests it in that modern sense of an office. And they have a lot of are these kind of, not fluorescent tubes, but fluorescent-like fixtures that are modern and edgy in office buildings. And if there's some way we can kind of play with a practical fixture that grounds her in her office, that might be something interesting too.
I love the lines. That's what struck me the most. The lines and also the glass table. There's the show called Being Mary Jane, and they have, she's a very like particular, she likes things specific ways, and they have her living in a glass house, you know? And so I just love, and they never mention it, but of course it's like, duh, you know? And I love the idea of Danny being surrounded by lines and, you know, glass.
Connection.
Yes.
I mean, her whole thing is, do I find out if I'm actually connected or not, or do I assume I'm connected?
Yes.
I think there's something really interesting to play with in that.
And Danny's
with it being super like scaled down and simplistic, is there a way that maybe that table could play in each scene, like that be the only thing that moves? So you like see how right there, let's say if for Danny it was, you know, one U shape, but then if you flipped it on its, you know, flipped it, it would be like a table where the mother, you know, Cecile is sitting. And then maybe if you turned it a certain angle, it could represent Holly at the window. Like, you know what I mean? One thing, just being able to set up what's happening.
Or even you turn it on its side and it's her closet where she's hanging up her clothes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just one thing that, but I'd like it to be like, I don't know if we could even have something that plays images off we're talking about projections. So I'm like, is that something that can be done?
Yeah. I mean, it's great to have things that move around and not just the giant white screen in the back.
Right.
And that kind of ties into towards the end, when we leave these physical locations and we are with them and experiencing how everything interacts, we go from possibly the projection and movement on these tables or walls or whatever physically is there to physically on them. I think that is what can be so exciting about this kind of poetic, non-literal world for this piece, is creating that sense of the entire environment is changing and moving and flowing, rather than here we are in a box.
Right.
We talked about echoes and kind of our world of echo and what that world might feel like, look like, sound like. And so I've also been looking at a lot of sound waves and how we represent sound waves, which ironically look a lot like heartbeats. So that linear feeling, but also this idea of repeated image, kind of like the video you just sent with fabric and the swirling.
Yes.
Playing with that swirling repeated idea, I think is something interesting. I grabbed a couple of videos I might mess with later, but
yeah, and you know, I definitely try to have certain images or phrases repeat in different contexts, so that echoing and that repetition is really that feels really right as well.
Great.
Like that too.
So we've done a little bit of research also looking at kind of the textures of it. Like this is an actual slide put under a microscope of squished blood.
Oh, wow.
I think it's just, there's a lot of, when you magnify blood and the textures of it and all the little pieces that we don't really see, when you get down really to the DNA level, I think it's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And these are a bunch of red blood cells. Like it's quite feminine feeling in a weird way. And
it looks like flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested in using the textures of blood that we might not consider the textures of blood.
Mm-hmm. Go on the sound.
Yeah, you guys checked out the playlist that was just based on like the transitionary songs that Kimberly, you kind of called out. I was just kind of wondering, like, how close was that to it? Because I feel like when a playwright mentions a specific artist or they're thinking of a specific time, they're going through and they're like probably listening to stuff to inspire. Maybe it may or may not be the case for you, but did you have a specific anything in mind for those? And did I get close?
I'll be honest, for me, compared to other writers, I do not write off of music. So it was I wrote this scene, I know what era I need it to be in, who was popular right then.
Yeah, you think who's there?
Yeah, who's there? So it was purely, I did pick artists based on what little I knew of the quality of their voice or what they might be known for, but I didn't have particular songs in mind at all. So it was fun to see which ones you chose of.
Rashada, you said earlier that you wanted the imagery to be of Black women. So I was trying to see, Black female vocalist artists to kind of keep to that spirit. Although, Goo Goo Dolls are the Goo Goo Dolls. It doesn't have to necessarily be the Goo Goo Dolls because we're still kind of early in the process. But I did kind of want to ask, by choosing the earnest 90s rock, do you feel that that's what Danny's listening to at the time? Do you feel that's to her taste?
Listen, to me, and Kim, you might want to chime in here too, but as soon as I saw the options and I saw Nirvana, because that's what I was thinking for each song, I'm thinking about the character. And I'm like, Numb is the best song. Mm-hmm. I was like, let me just play it. Now, the only thing is it came out in 2003.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Good. Okay, so I know, so I'm like 2002. I'm like, could we play with that or not? I don't know, but I wanted something because I just heard it like doom 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 doom, and I had just seen Kat's renderings with the lighting, and I'm like, if there's any way, that could even play into building Danny's world up. And Numb itself was like, yeah, this is definitely her goal. So that's what I saw. And then I started playing the song and for some reason couldn't turn it off. So.
Every day I learned something new about the play through how Rashada and Shariba are interpreting it. And we had this really good discussion about Ona's scene because I had a different voice in my head, but the two of them were in sync. Shariba and Rashada were in sync about the voice that they heard her to have. And we had this really helpful conversation for me about what was in the text that was sending them down that road versus what I had in my mind. And I walked away from that conversation armed with information that helps me frame Ona's role within the group of four in a different way than when I walked into the process. So that's just one concrete example of how every once in a while I'm like, who wrote this? Because, I mean, it's really touching to see people take it and make it, and now you guys have done the same from your lens of, wow, I didn't know this piece could do these things that you guys are seeing for it.
What makes this such a beautiful process. I love having the writer present to be able to help, you know, when we're like, wait, is that right? Am I interpreting that right? You know what I mean? Was that your intention? It makes it so collaborative and supportive, you know what I mean? Because one perspective doesn't mean that it's the perspective, you know, intended. So I even like this. I always want to shout out when I'm inside of a moment and I have it and I'm like, dang, all these women just creatively coming together and doing our thing. It's just a beautiful thing. I love it.
It is. And I think, speaking of all women, well, I shouldn't judge, but what I was going to say is the other thing I appreciate about this process is that I am present and I am being heard, you know, because you could be in a certain dynamic where the writer's present, but they're like, could you please go occupy yourself?
You're going to have to change that because that's not how we were interpreted.
That's right. That's right.
Think about what the man said and go rewrite it.
That's right. So I think the spirit of listening to each other is really, really strong here. The force is strong.